How cool is this polymer clay octopus? Keep watching for the full tutorial. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. For this project I'm using Fimo Soft in black. I've conditioned my clay for about 20 minutes so it's nice and soft. If you don't know about conditioning clay, click the link above. I'm going to start by making the legs. I'm just going to divide the clay into 8 pieces. I'm cutting it into 8 like you would a pizza. It doesn't have to be too precise at this point. I'm going to roll each piece into a ball. You can easily see that some are slightly bigger than others, so I'm just going to even those out a little. It doesn't have to be precise, it doesn't matter that they're not all exactly the same. I could roll the legs out by hand, but I prefer to use a piece of glass taken from a small picture frame, with the sharp edges covered with masking tape. By holding one edge of the glass lower than the other gives a more even taper. Try to make the length of each leg the same and the taper as even as possible. So that's the 8 legs made for the octopus. I'm going to condition some more clay and put it through an extruder to cut up and make suckers for the legs. I've conditioned some more clay, I'm just going to put it in the extruder. I'm using a small circular die and I just wind the handle to push out the clay. That should be enough for what we want. I'm using a craft knife to cut the length of clay into tiny pieces. Next, I'm going to roll each of the small pieces up into a ball. You need to make more of these than you think, and it does make a mess of your hands. So now I have all my little suckers made. I'm using a small dotting tool to make a dimple in each little ball and transferring them to the legs. I'm selecting the larger suckers to go on the thicker part of the legs and the smaller ones for the thinner end. It's quite difficult to see on camera with it being in black clay. That's the last of the suckers in place. I'm just going to press them in to make sure that when I put the tentacles on the glass bottle, they don't fall off. I'm doing this very lightly as I don't want to distort the shape of the legs. So the next thing to do is to arrange the octopus legs on the bottle. This bottle's been cleaned beforehand. It's going to be a permanent fixture on the bottle. It's quite awkward to get the legs to stick to the glass just where you want them. Polymer clay really doesn't like to stick to glass. You also want to arrange the tentacles with the suckers towards the glass, so it looks like they're clinging on. You need to use a bit of pressure, but be careful not to distort the shape of the tentacles. And I'm going to arrange them so they radiate out from a central point where the body will be. The next part is to make the apron that goes over the tentacles, so I'm just going to condition some more clay. So for this part I'm making a disc with quite narrow edges, and this will sit just here. Just working the clay in between the legs. In places like here, we have quite a definite line where the two pieces of clay join, and I'm going to need to blend it in. And we do that with our thumbs. It's just a very light stroke. It's very, very time consuming, and patience is very important. It's also difficult to do without disturbing the legs. I think you can see there that that's blended in quite nicely, and it's just a matter of continuing with all the joins. It's well worth taking your time with this, as any unblended joins will stand out quite badly when the piece is coloured with mica powders. Okay, so we're back and the final part is to sculpt the head. As you can see, the legs are now all blended into the apron. I've conditioned another piece of clay and I'm working it into the shape of an egg. I'm going to flatten out the point at the bottom. I'm just holding it against the body to see how it looks. Once again, I'm going to carefully blend the head into the apron, and I'll take some time in doing this. When I'm happy with the blending, I start to shape the head, make an indentation for the eyes, first with my fingers and then with a large ball tool. I like to spend a little time finessing the shape of the head. I'm using a small ball tool to form the shape of the octopus's siphon. I'm using a couple of small balls of clay to make the eyes. It's important to make sure that they're level and evenly placed. And I'm going to use a craft knife to make a slit in each eye to give them that octopus look. And the same with the other eye. Before I begin to colour the octopus, I'm just going to check it over and make sure I'm happy with all the blending and the position of the tentacles. And just do a final bit of finessing. Before I put this in the oven to bake, I'm going to give it some colour and shine using mica powders. I'm using micas from Perfect Pearls, as well as some non-branded powders from eBay. They both have a built-in binder, which is important, as without it, the powders would just brush off your finished piece. So if you're in the market for mica powders, check to make sure they've got a binding agent in them. Mica is a very fine powder, so care should be taken when using it. It's advisable to wear a dust mask and be careful in drafts. You only need a very tiny amount on the brush, as a little goes a long way. I find that micas have a dramatic effect when used on black clay. Of course, you can use them on other colours of clay, but the effect will be more muted. Some micas colour shift and change colour depending on the colour of the background they are used on. They're easy to blend in with each other to create some interesting effects. I'm using a large brush to dust off the excess mica and clean up the glass. piece is now ready to be baked in the oven for around an hour at the recommended temperature of 110 degrees centigrade. However, I'm going to place it in the oven while the oven is cold and allow it to come up to temperature. If the glass is placed in an already hot oven, it could crack due to thermal shock. Similarly, I'm going to leave it in the oven to cool down slowly. So now it's out of the oven and is at room temperature. I've just cleaned up where I'd missed some of the mica on the glass. While on camera the mica looks quite shiny, in real life it's kind of flat, so I'm going to use Fimo Gloss Varnish. I'll give it 4 coats to ensure a deep, almost liquid shine. I like to leave it 24 hours between each coat so it can fully cure before I add another layer. The varnish is water-based and is easy to apply. It's dry to the touch in about 20 minutes. I like to give it just a light coat to avoid any runs. Polymer clay doesn't need to be varnished or sealed, but because I've used mica powders it's a good idea to seal them in to protect them. However, the main reason I'm varnishing the piece is to achieve a deep glossy shine. After 4 coats of the Fimo varnish, leaving 24 hours between each coat, I printed out a label that I created myself and aged it using distress inks. The bottle is filled with fake octopus ink, made from acrylic ink in a mixture of clear PVA glue and water. The stopper is sealed using silicone glue to help prevent any evaporation or accidental spills.